Welcome back to 360 Sports. I'm host Emily Saplee alongside Grace, Hudson, and Victoria. And today we're talking all things hockey. So as the NHL season keeps moving on, we're going to first discuss these last few weeks' games. So the Global Series was very highly anticipated for many people this season. And the Stars and Panthers just played in Finland this past weekend. And the Panthers swept them on Friday 6-4 and Saturday 4-2. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought it was really interesting because honestly, I would have expected the Stars to at least win one game, especially with Ottinger, because he's a really good goalie. But I found an interesting stat, and it said that there were 7 Finnish players, 4 from Florida and 3 from Dallas, and they had a combined total of 11 points in the series, which is cool because they were in Finland.
I do think that Florida has a really good momentum going. I think they're coming off of a great Stanley Cup win, rise, up and everything, and they're bringing more of a fan base back to Florida, which I think they do need in order to expand their fan base. And I also do agree with the Finnish players' comment. I think it's really good for them, and the whole point of the Global Series was to expand their audience anyway. So just having, a home player in, Finland, it's really good for them to, expand their brand.
Honestly, I wasn't shocked the Florida Panthers swept, but I did think the Stars could at least win one game. I think they just need to figure out how to beat a team that is offensively as good as the Florida Panthers, but the Florida Panthers, they're the reigning Stanley Cup champions for a reason.
Right. Exactly. You'd expect them to do good, but again, a little bit more from Dallas was definitely expected on my part, but you never know. All right, so this past Wednesday, the Capitals faced off the Predators, where the Capitals won 3-2, which is their 1,000th win since Ted Leonsis as their owner. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, as a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, I'm very well aware of the Washington Capitals. So, I mean, the Capitals, they've been on a roll as of late. They're second top of the leaderboard for the Metropolitan Division. That's a hard word. The Predators, I'm a bit disappointed in them. I mean, they had a really good offseason, but they have not shown any of that potential this season.
It's crazy. They're last in the league right now. Tied with the Flyers, I think it said.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Both are disappointing, actually. But.
Yeah. I think it's cool for the Capitals to have that many wins since Ted Leonsis became their owner. I think it's good for them. So.
I think it's huge for their franchise. And also looking at it right now, that's correct. They are second in the Met. They're 9-3. What do we That's for them. That's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, last year they did sneak into the playoffs, which was big for their franchise. But
definitely snuck.
Definitely. The fight for that wild card last year was intense.
If they keep playing the way they are right now, I definitely think they're guaranteed a spot.
Yeah. And maybe they won't get swept this time.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. This past Tuesday, we also saw the Winnipeg Jets face off the Utah Hockey Club. The Jets are having one heck of a season. The Jets beat them 3-0. It was a shutout for them, and they're currently 12-1.
Yeah, I think the Jets, they're really starting to be a powerhouse team. They're working well together. Their defense is in sync. Every time I watch them, I'm really impressed with how well their lines play together. Even when they mix it up and try to get more guys on different lines and whatever, it's really impressive to see how well they all can, combine their chemistry and get things done.
Right now, the Jets, they don't really have a weakness. Offensively, they're doing great. Defensively, they're doing great. I mean, honestly, my bold prediction is I have them winning the Stanley Cup this year. If no major injuries
they're going
happen.
far. If not winning, they're going far.
I wouldn't be surprised, but also it is only the first 2 weeks of games, so you can't.
12-1 is still pretty.
It's still really good, but
they
could go on one bad streak.
It's definitely impressive. I mean, would you expect anything less from the Jets? Were you expecting?
No, I was not expecting Utah to beat the Jets. I will say that.
Yeah. I think that matchup was kind of expected that the Jets would win. I mean, a shutout, maybe not, but
right.
Hellebuyck has been.
He's been on fire.
He was in goal, right? I think. Usually.
Yeah. And then again, yesterday, Wednesday night, the Golden Knights faced off against the Oilers, which was McDavid's return from injury. The Knights won 4-2.
Gotta say, I was hoping for a little more from the Oilers, but also I know that the Knights are on a good run right now, so good for them.
I mean, the Knights have been a good team for like the past few seasons, and McDavid did just return. Maybe he came back a little too soon, but yeah, the Oilers they had a slow start last season, and they managed to get all the way to the finals of the Stanley Cup. So I mean, I feel like they could definitely come back like from this little downslope that they're having.
I definitely think you can never rule out the Oilers because they went on that 10-game win streak last year. Like that's all you really need to end up in the finals, I guess.
Yeah.
But they won 6 games and they've lost 7, and they've had 1 overtime loss, which is not
Not the worst.
unexpected, but it
Right.
could be worse.
There's been worse teams out there this season.
Yeah.
I just think, McDavid, he's out there maybe most likely doing most of the work. It's hard to debate that, but
Mhm.
the rest of the team's kind of got to get behind him. And I mean, his return, again, I think he probably should have maybe stayed out a few more games, heal up a little bit more and come
Yep.
back stronger. But
He's dedicated, and I got to
He
give it
is.
to him. It's
He
really
cares.
impressive to watch. No matter what happens to him, he's going to try his very best to come back as quick as possible.
right, you got to love his dedication to the game and always wanting to come back early, even if it does mean not being 100%, but still playing for his team.
Mhm, definitely.
All right. More locally, Anthony Richard, he was just brought up from Lehigh Valley to the Flyers. We've talked about it already. The Flyers are having a rough season. How do you think this is going to impact their games?
Well, I mean, it can't really get much worse for them. They're at the
Exactly,
bottom
yeah.
of the standings. Like,
Worse than the Sharks right now.
yeah. I don't know if it'll have a positive impact, honestly. I've looked at his stats. Like, he's an okay player, but I don't think he'll have a major impact on this Philly team.
Yeah, I mean, in the preseason, he looked like he could be one of the team's fastest skaters. He has a really impressive forecheck. It's pretty strong. He has impressive burst of speed, but at the rate the Flyers are going, I don't think he can take them very far anymore. They're not going to, I mean, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen, from what the statistics say, I don't think they're going to get much further.
Yeah.
And if they do, it'll be a good surprise, but
Yeah, I mean, again, you never know because it is only the beginning of the year, but unless they get some bombshell player who's gonna score goals consistently, I don't see them really going anywhere.
And maybe Anthony Richard is that player, but I
Could be.
don't think he's going to be. I mean, he might add a little bit to the team, just spice things up a little bit, get some fresh feet in there. But
Mhm.
all right. And then talking about the AHL, is there anybody from your guys' teams who maybe you want to see play in the NHL a little bit more? Or?
Well, so the Islanders have had a lot of injuries recently, and they lost their entire left defense, left-handed defense. So they brought up this player. His name is Isaiah George. He's 20 years old, and he's played maybe 10 professional games or something really small. And he actually just got called up, and he played 1 game. He was on ice for 15 minutes, and he played really well. The coach was really happy. Everybody seemed really happy. So I'm excited to see where he goes. I think it'd be interesting to watch new younger players.
I had Rutger McGroarty. I mean, we got him. We traded for him in the offseason from the Jets. Sorry.
That was a whole debacle in and of itself.
Feel bad
Yeah,
for
that
him.
was rough.
But yeah, he only played 3 games. He didn't really do anything, but I'd like to see him get some experience from our veteran players such as Crosby and Malkin. It's definitely good for him to learn, and it would definitely benefit him.
yeah, I mean, Buffalo, we don't really have many good people in the AHL right now. It's kind of hard to pick one person who I think will take the team far. One big name that I personally would like to see is Cale Clegg. I think he had a really good start in the NHL, but then, the teams he played for fell off and he wasn't getting much play time. So I kind of hope that, Buffalo sees that he does have some potential, but, again, it's the Sabres. We're really not sure. So,
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Seamus Casey. He did play his first 8 NHL games this season. It is his first season in the NHL. And then the Devils sent him down to the AHL. So I think that was a strange move for them. He had 4 points in the 8 games he played. Again, young core. I'd like to see him develop a little bit.
Yeah, he'll be there eventually.
do you
Yeah.
think that if they bring him back, he could get the Devils farther?
I think it's an option. I think the Devils started off really strong. I think they're starting to fall apart a little bit, which seems to be
Yeah,
seems to
definitely.
be their MO. But you never really know with them. So.
Mhm.
All right, moving on to Alexander Ovechkin, the 39-year-old from the Washington Capitals. He is nearing Wayne Gretzky's goal record. All right, Gretzky, he has 894 goals, and Ovechkin is currently at 861. Do we think it's a possibility of him to break this record this season? That is 33 goals away for him.
like I said, very familiar with the Capitals. I mean, if he plays every single game, I definitely think it is possible. And with how they're playing, they're definitely gonna possibly get into the playoffs. So if they don't do it during the regular season, he's going to get it in the playoffs.
I think that the team knows that Ovi has really good records for them, and I think they work well together. I also think they're a very supportive team of each other. So if he can do it this season, I think his team's definitely going to make it possible for him.
And he already has, I think it said 5 games he's had goals in so far, straight. So I think it is possible, but he also has another year on his contract. So if he doesn't do it this year, he'll do it next year. And then if for whatever reason he doesn't do it next year, they might sign him to a 1-year deal or something, because they're not going to let him not get that.
I mean, Gretzky has said it himself. It's not a matter of if, but when he's going to
Exactly.
break
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Whether or not it's going to be this season, we have yet to see.
Right.
All right, let's move on to injuries. The NHL has been facing some insane injuries this season. There has been so many. Every team has caught the injury bug. Connor McDavid, one of the most recent ones, he just came back. He was only out for 3 games. But again, we have already talked about this, maybe back a little bit too early. But what is one player that's been injured that you think when they come back is going to help their team?
So for me, I had Matt Barzal. He's on the Islanders, and he is one of the most crucial players for this team. So what happened was he randomly just didn't play in the Buffalo game, and everybody was kind of like, what is happening? Why is he out? And they said it was an upper body injury, and now they're saying he's out 4 to 6 weeks, which is not good because he's one of the fastest skaters in the NHL, and he's the fastest skater on the team, and he's really good at rushing. So it's been really inconvenient to not have him. Luckily, the Islanders have won 2 of their last 3 games since he's been out, but I think he will play a really big part in getting them farther if they end up staying as good as they are without him. They aren't very good.
So for me, I went with Logan Couture from the San Jose Sharks. He's been on the team since 2009, and while the Sharks aren't doing the best, he could probably bring some life back into this team. He's a veteran. And now that Macklin Celebrini is back in the lineup, he could potentially pass down some knowledge to the rookie, and having a good veteran player on the ice with him would be great for him throughout the season.
Yeah, the Sharks are really going to need all the help they can get if they want to turn their season around.
Yeah. So my pick was Austin Matthews. I mean, he is certainly legendary. I mean, he's going to be remembered for a really long time. So far this season, I don't know if I'm impressed or not impressed. He has 5 goals and 6 assists, but I do think that he is able to help the team most when they need it. And I think that if he comes back, he will see just how badly they need to get momentum back into their team.
Yeah, he's definitely a key player for the Leafs. I did see is Austin Matthews. He is planned to return soon, correct?
Yeah,
I
he was only
believe
day
so.
to day.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be out for too long.
So I guess the Leafs are playing tonight, correct?
Yes.
So I think we might see him playing tonight. If not tonight, in the next game or 2, for sure. My player is going to have to be Vince Dunn from the Seattle Kraken. He's only played 4 games this season, and he is a key player for them. Last year, he was one of their leading points scorers. He had 46 points, and I think there was only 2 other players ahead of him on the team. So it's vital that he is on the Kraken team if they want to make it far. I hope that he's going to be back soon. I know he is on long-term IR, so you never really know when that's going to be back. But the Kraken are currently 5-8-1, so they need him.
I think that he would be able to bring a lot of life back into them.
For sure.
I also think that he's able to give advice to newer players or people who aren't used to their type of chemistry. So I think I agree.
Yeah.
And I think the Kraken are definitely, they're not a great team, but they're a lot of fun to watch, I will say. I love their goalie. I love just what the team has done with the organization. So, and I know that Vince Dunn has always been a key player. I don't think they named him any an assistant or anything, but
No, he is not.
I think eventually he will be because he's been on the team since the start. He's a really important player for this team.
Yeah. All right. Along with injuries, there have been a few disappointing teams this season. Can we claim this to injuries? Not really sure. But let's see what you guys think. Who are some of the teams that need some improvement?
Okay, so my team that I said needs a lot of improvement is the New York Islanders, because they're my favorite team, if you couldn't tell. But unfortunately, they have been playing some really rough hockey recently. We've won before, but it's just been really rough wins. Like, it hasn't been good wins. We blow a lot of leads. They're just not good. But I can also say that we can equate it to injury, because they just lost, I think 6 guys are out. They lost Adam Pelech, Matt Barzal, Anthony Duclair, who was supposed to be really big for this team. They lost Alexander Romanov and Mike Riley. So their entire left side of defense is all out. So they had to call up a bunch of guys from the AHL. So it's been a little rough for them, but I do have hope that they will get better eventually, especially Patrick Waugh has been doing good. So I think if they get better, they should make it into the playoffs again. But right now it's not looking good, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. The Islanders, they have the injuries, which was the problem with the Devils last year, but you got to find a way around that, because at the end of the day, they can become an excuse for a few weeks, but if the injuries are going to be a long-term thing, it can't be an excuse anymore. So
I definitely think the injuries has to do a lot with how the Islanders season's going.
Yeah.
And they have had a few rough wins. And speaking of that, one of their rough wins they had this week was my pick, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Good game.
What has happened since they won the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row? I don't even know where to begin. Actually, I do. Mike Sullivan. He's living off his glory days, and we have had 2 seasons consecutively where we have not made the playoffs. I don't think that this team has done bad offensively, but defensively, it has been horrendous. There was a point where they lost 6 games in a row after they started the season 3-1, I believe. And now they're like 5-7-2. So yeah, very rough, especially when you have one of the greatest hockey players of all time on your team in Sidney Crosby.
Penguins have had it rough. And they're such a good franchise that it's like sad to see where they're.
Yeah.
There's been quite a few games where we have had the lead and then blown it.
I will say the Islanders do that too. So I was surprised when the Islanders won in a shootout against the Penguins, because they're not usually very good.
Yeah, but I do have to give it to them. Their fan base, the Penguins fans, they never give up on them. They always come back.
Can't confirm this.
But it is, I mean, I think the team does have good chemistry. Most of them have played together for a very long time, but they've got to get some life into them.
I also think the goalie,
Yeah,
big
the
problem.
defense is where the struggle is the most.
Yeah, which brings me to my team. So my team was the Montreal Canadiens. We saw them in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think 3 years ago, and they had really, really great chemistry between them all. But right now, they really need to focus on building up strength on power plays and penalty kills and face-offs, which they're only about 48.5% winning, which it's decent for their team, but if they want to get their wins up, they've got to get some defense back into there. They've got to get some edge into them. I think they need to focus more on playing aggressively in order to get the puck and score.
Yeah, and it's like, hasn't Cole Caulfield been playing really well recently?
Yeah.
So it's surprising.
He's tied for leading goal scorer in
It's
the NHL
surprising
right
that
now.
even with all his goals, they're still playing pretty poorly.
Yeah.
Not expected.
And I did see that he was also voted the most likable NHL player, which I think is very fitting.
Doesn't surprise
But
me.
I also think like he is a very talented player. I'm not sure if the team has the chemistry they really, really need to get to the point that they were 3 years ago.
I do agree on that one. I think they've been having a bit of a rough time in general. They have good players overall, but together it doesn't
It's not
work.
clicking right now.
Yeah.
And speaking of rough times, that leads me to mine. I'm going to have to go with the Nashville Predators. We've already talked about this. They are off to a rough start. Last year, they snuck into the playoffs, and so far this season, they're 4-8-1. That is not good. They need to find ways to get the puck in the back of the net. They, so far this season, have some of the most shots on goal, but compared to every other team, they have some of the least goals. So they have got to find a way to score. And they don't have bad players. They don't have bad goal scorers. And they have an amazing goalie in Saros, but they just they got to, it's on the offense at this point. They have to get the puck in the back of the net if they want to win.
And it's just interesting because they had so many good people.
Acquisitions
Yeah.
that they got during
Yeah.
the offseason. Nobody could have ever predicted this.
Yeah, they're
honestly.
like perfect on paper. You just wouldn't expect the season for them. And they've been shut out 3 times too.
Yeah.
So
And it's getting to the point where even Barry Trotz said that if they keep going down the path they're going, they're going to just call this a rebuild year, which is insane because they
This
basically
was your
rebuilt the
rebuild
offseason.
year.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand how this happens.
All right, let's move on to our next segment. We're going to see if we truly know puck. All right, we're going to look at some players and we're going to match them to their career goals.
Ooh.
Oh.
I know.
Well,
Sidney
598
Crosby's
is
598.
Yeah,
And
and
then
he's about to hit 600.
Connor Bedard is going to have to be at 25.
25. Austin
Austin
Nick-
Matthews is, I think he's 338.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like
McDavid's more of an assist kind of player, so I feel like he's 268.
yeah, I feel
maybe.
like I know Barkov has a lot of goals. I just
I think it's
don't know how many. I feel like
Some of those numbers are so close too that I
right.
like
It could
338
go
versus
for
370.
Matthews and Barkov. It could go either 373 or 338.
I feel
Yeah.
like Matthews is probably going to be 373.
Yeah.
He had an amazing season last year with goals.
Who's been in the league longer? Do we know?
It's probably close.
Probably.
Probably really close.
I feel like Matthews was probably in. I feel like he's 373.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
say Matthews at 370.
Yeah. Okay. So
I
Barkov
agree.
at 338.
Yeah. And then McDavid at 268,
268.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Bedard at 25, and
I do
Yeah.
agree that McDavid is more assisting. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We'll see if that's right.
Free right.
Three.
Oh.
Barkov has 268.
Wow, that's
Wow.
surprising. Would not
Yeah,
expect
that's the
that.
only thing that's surprising here.
The rest makes sense. I mean, Connor.
Yeah,
Connor McDavid having a
Connor
lot.
Bedard. That's totally the
Yeah.
That and I know Sidney Crosby is about
Yeah.
to hit 600, so that makes sense.
So
Right.
those two were pretty easy, but I am a little bit surprised that Connor McDavid is 338.
Yeah. Do we think Sidney Crosby will hit 600 within a few days?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
He's been at the rate he's been playing. I wouldn't be
I think
surprised
he
if
scored like 5 out of their last 6 goals.
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. So-
Yeah. So
Even if
it's-
we could see him hit 600 by the end of next week,
Mhm.
honestly.
They're not playing tonight, are they?
I think they're playing the Hurricanes.
Oh, so then
So it
maybe
could
we
be.
maybe we
Uh,
could have a 2-goal night and
Yeah.
600 goals.
I hope so.
Good for him.
That would be cool.
Yeah. All right. Some of tonight's matchups, we have a few teams playing tonight. How are we feeling about the Canucks and the Kings?
Oh.
I'm gonna have to go Canucks.
Oh, sorry. I guess first we're going
Oh,
the Sabres and the Rangers.
Oh, that's an easy one. The
Rangers.
Rangers
I'm
are
going
gonna win.
Rangers.
Yeah.
Listen,
As a Sabres fan, we have no hope. Sorry, mom and dad, but it's just
not a bad team, not a great team.
Yeah.
just nothing special. They haven't had that spark that they need.
yep.
But the Rangers have been playing very well, and
Mhm.
Shesterkin is on fire. So
Right.
if he's in net, then
Yeah.
And they're
probably don't
they're
need
always a
hope,
great team. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I take Rangers every day of the week.
unfortunately.
And then the next one we're gonna have is the Senators and Islanders.
I'm gonna go Islanders just because. Actually, no, I don't even know because if Olmark is in goal, then I wouldn't.
I'm gonna give it to the Senators.
I don't know. I feel like the Senators have been playing hockey the same level as Islanders, so it could
yeah.
go either way.
It
But
could,
the
but
Islanders have not been getting pucks into the net.
I don't
But-
think it's not gonna be a high scoring game.
No.
Not at all.
given the Islanders' injuries and everything, I think that the
Yeah.
Senators might have better chemistry, which gives them a bit of an edge.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go with Senators as well.
Also, Varlamov is in net and not Sorokin, which leads me to believe that the Islanders could fall flat because Sorokin is
Oh, no.
much better than Varlamov usually.
All right, now going back to the Canucks and the Kings. How do we feel about that? I think that's gonna be a good game.
I'm giving it to the Canucks.
Yeah.
Me too.
I
I'm
think
going to be
they've
different. I'm going to go with the Kings.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the Canucks have kind of had a rough season. I mean, some of this could be Thatcher Demko's out,
Yeah.
but they don't have bad goaltending without him. It could be worse. So
They're like doing Are they low in the league? I haven't even seen the standings. Are they like doing bad?
The Canucks?
Yeah.
No, they're only like 6-2-3
Oh,
right
that's
now,
not
so they have a
horrible.
winning
It's not
record.
bad,
Yeah.
but I think they need to do better in order to get to the
Yes.
spot where
Mhm.
they want to be.
And I think they will. They had a really great team last year.
Mhm.
And I don't think they got rid of that many players. If anything, they added. So I wouldn't be surprised if they.
Yep.
Okay, and I think we have one more, the Jets and the Avalanche. How are we feeling about that?
Jets.
Gotta
Yeah.
All
go
the way.
Jets.
Again, the Avalanche with Makar.
And
They've
he's
been
on
dealing
day
with
today,
injuries,
and I
yeah.
know that they said that he should come back tonight, but is he ready?
Yeah.
That's the
I
thing.
don't
Yeah.
think they should push him, especially because their goalie hasn't been doing well. So if they know that the Avs Jets game is gonna be rough, just let it go
Mhm.
and then move on to the next game when Makar is much better off.
I
Yeah.
think with all the injuries in question, like you're definitely going to pick the best team in the league at this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for tuning in today's show. I'm Emily Saplee alongside Grace, Hudson, and Victoria. And tune in next week for Monday NFL.